We have been out in the wild, and we have been through the myths of the ancient world. Tonight, we sail somewhere new, out of America and across the ocean, to a warm and beautiful lagoon in the north of Italy, to the floating city of Venice, with its canals and its palaces and its bridges, and to a small, low island, just off the coast of that lovely city that the people of Venice have avoided for 600 years. They do not go there. The fishermen will not cast their nets in the water around it. It has no name on the tourist maps, but it has a name, Poveglia, and they call it the Island of the Dead. Come close to the fire. This one is real. From the water, Poveglia looks almost peaceful. A little green island, a crumbling wall, a single tall bell tower rising above the trees. Venice itself shimmers in the distance, full of light and music and tourists. And yet no boat ever stops here. To understand why, you have to understand what this island was used for hundreds of years. Because Poveglia is not really an island at all anymore. It is a grave, one of the largest and the most terrible that Europe ever dug. It begins with the plague, the Black Death. In the year 1348, a sickness came out of the east and swept across Europe, and it killed people faster than anyone had ever seen. It could take a healthy person in the morning and leave them dead by nightfall, their bodies swollen with black sores. It killed, by some counts, 1 in every 3 human beings in Europe. And Venice, a great and crowded trading port where ships arrived from all over the world, was hit as hard as anywhere on earth. The bodies piled up in the streets faster than they could be buried, and the terrified city needed, desperately, somewhere to put the dying. So they chose Poveglia, far enough from the city to be safe, close enough to reach by boat, and they made it a place of quarantine. If you fell sick, or even if you were only suspected of being sick, you were taken from your home, put onto a boat, and rowed out across the lagoon to the island. And you did not come back. It did not matter if you were truly infected or not. It did not matter if you were a grown man or a small child. If the fear touched you, you were sent to Poveglia to be kept away from the healthy and to die there, among strangers, in the open air. And they died in numbers that are almost impossible to imagine. Over the centuries, as plague after plague returned to Venice, the island became a factory of death. The bodies came by the boatload, and there was no time and no room for graves and coffins and prayers. So they dug enormous pits, and into the pits went the dead, layer upon layer upon layer. And when the pits were full, they burned them. For years, the smoke of burning bodies drifted over the water toward the beautiful city. Historians believe that over 160,000 people died on that small island, or were brought there dead. Some who have walked its soil say that it is not really soil at all, that it is more than half made of human ash and crushed and blackened human bone. Imagine it. Imagine being one of them. Imagine waking one morning with a fever and a knock at the door. Imagine being dragged from your family, put onto a boat by men who would not touch you, and rowed out across the water toward a low green island, with the smoke already rising from it. You would have seen the shore as you came close. The piles, the pits, the other doomed people, sitting among the dying and the dead, waiting for their turn. And you would have known, in that boat, on that water, that you were not being taken somewhere to be healed. You were being taken somewhere to be forgotten. For hundreds of years, that is what Poveglia was. A dumping ground for the plague dead. The single most concentrated place of misery and mass death in the whole history of Venice. And when the great plagues finally passed, the island did not become gentle again. How could it? The ground was full. The air felt wrong. And for a long time, the island simply sat there, silent and shunned, a small green scab on the water that everyone could see, and no one would visit. But the story of Poveglia was not finished. Because in the 20th century, someone decided that an island already full of the dead would make a fine place to build a hospital. In 1922, they opened a mental asylum on Poveglia, a long, grim building of brick right on top of the plague pits. And here the story leaves solid history and moves into the darker country of legend. Because the people who tell the story say that the patients who were sent to that asylum began, almost at once, to complain. They said they could not sleep. They said that at night, they saw shapes moving on the island, that they heard whispering and weeping and footsteps out among the trees where the bodies were buried. They said the ghosts of the plague dead were still there, and that they would not leave them alone. And they say there was a doctor. The stories do not give him a name, but they say he was a cruel and curious man, and that he did not believe his patients about the ghosts. He believed only in his own experiments. And they say that up in the bell tower of the island, away from the others, he tried terrible things on the people in his care. Crude operations on the living brain. Things that were meant to make the mad quiet, and instead only made them suffer. The screams, the legend says, came from the top of that tower, and no one on that island of the dead was ever coming to help. But the ghosts, the story goes, were watching him too. And in the end, they came for him. They say the doctor began to change, that he grew pale and wild-eyed, and told the nurses that the plague dead were surrounding him, choking him, closing in. And one night, the great bell in the tower began to ring, though no living hand was ringing it. When they went to look, they found the doctor at the very top of the tower. And then he was gone, over the edge, falling to the stones far below. Some say he jumped. Some say he was pushed by something no one could see. A nurse is said to have sworn that he did not die from the fall, but that a strange gray mist rose up out of the ground and wrapped around him and choked the life out of him where he lay. The asylum closed in 1968, and after that, Poveglia was simply abandoned and left to rot. The doors hang open now. The wards are full of peeling paint and fallen plaster and the rusted frames of old beds. Trees grow up through the floors, and over it all still stands that bell tower, though the bell itself was taken down long ago. Every so often, someone has tried to do something with the island, to build a hotel, to turn it into something new. And every time, the story is the same. The workers arrive, and within a few days, they leave, and they refuse to say exactly why, and they do not come back. The people of Venice will tell you, quite plainly, that the island is not empty, that on still nights, sound carries strangely across the lagoon, and that you can hear it. A bell from a tower with no bell in it. And the fishermen, the practical, weathered men who have worked that water their whole lives, will tell you the simplest and most chilling thing of all. They will tell you that they do not fish near Poveglia, not because they are afraid of ghosts, but because, every so often, their nets come up out of that water heavy, and when they haul them in, they are full of old, yellowed, human bones. That is Poveglia, a small green island in one of the most beautiful places on earth, so soaked in death that the living have surrendered it entirely and left it to whatever remains. Perhaps it is only legend and old fear and the natural horror of a place where so many suffered. Or perhaps 160,000 souls, forgotten, burned, and forbidden, do not simply rest, no matter how long they lie. We will let you sit with that one. Look out across the water some evening, toward the little island no one will visit, and listen for the bell. This has been the Dark Hearth. Thank you for watching, and we will see you at the fire.